conversation.
You're welcome to your favorite program, The Conversation.
Hello there, and welcome to The Conversation. Our guest today is a legislator representing Izego constituency in Enugu State. His name is Right Honorable Barrister Chima Obieze. Honorable, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Now, Honorable, we would like to know what made you to join politics.
I don't think I would say I joined politics. I would say I grew up and I found myself doing politics. It's not like something you sit down and you say you took a decision to join politics. No, for me, I just found myself leading from the time I was small, and whenever I'm in a circle, I always find myself being singled out for one or two reasons, to lead. I started off as a leader of the altar boys in the Catholic Church at a very tender age, as a leader of Block Rosary Children, at St. Bridget's Catholic Church and St. Michael's Catholic Church, respectively, both in Asata. I also started off as a youth leader, that is the Sion, president, still in the same church, as well as the CYMO, Catholic Young Men Organization, president too, still in the same church. I became a member of the parish pastoral council in that parish, and at some point I started representing the parish at the diocese, the Catholic Laity Council, where I also served. When I was barely 19, I served as the public relations officer of Enugu Diocese in the Catholic Communion. While I was in school, I wasn't also left out, as I've constantly been nominated to be the class leader from my secondary school to my university. I was a class representative, and I grew to become the president of Society of International Law Students. On the day of that election, I wouldn't even call it election, it was a selection, because I was not in school. I had fever. I wasn't in school, and there were two persons who were contesting for the position. I wasn't contesting for the position. So on the day of the election, the members of the International Law Society brought them together for them to have an amicable resolve of who would be the president. And when both of them could not agree, the members were asked to nominate, to decide. The members said, okay, that they want these two persons to step aside for a new person to come on board. So both of them were eventually disqualified, because they were tied in the voting, and they needed one person to step down for the other. And so when none of them were budging, they said they wanted a new person. And that was how Chima Obieze, who was not in school, I was in my house when people started calling me and sending text messages and telling me congratulations that you have been elected president of such of. I said it's not true, I'm not contesting. Maybe it's a mistake. And then eventually the next day I came to school, and members of the International Law Society came to my class to tell me that they wanted me to lead. It was also like that, when I became the Minister for Environment. The person who was the Student Union President then, Chukwunonso Nnamani, he's a brother to the former governor of Enugu State, Chima Obieze. I think he's the last born. So he was the Student Union President then. I didn't know him much. I just know that as a leader in the Faculty of Law, we would interact at the General Student Leaders Forum So when he became president, he called me and told me he wanted me to serve with him as his Minister for Environment. I eventually did serve before there were also calls for me to become the president of the student union government, which I listened to. I came out to contest. At first, I thought it was going to be a walkover, considering the magnanimity of support, that came from my fans who called me out. But then some persons started coming out, one of them from the same faculty with me. Eventually, many of the people that came out started stepping down too. On the day of the election, I went into the ballot with just one person and also got the majority vote. I became the president of Enugu State University of Science and Technology, ESUT, and we would have meeting of all student union presidents in the Southeast.
Okay, you were leading the student union of university.
Yeah, I was leading ESUT. Then all the student union presidents in the Southeast geopolitical zone had a forum.
Okay.
So I attended the meeting twice, and then those who were leading the forum, from the time I started attending the meeting, their time in school was done. They've handed over in their schools. So when it was time for them to hand over, I was also not there. I was called and told I'd be made the chairman of the Southeast Student Union Leaders Forum. I wasn't there. It was my friend, Comrade Chukwujeku, who was the president of IMT, that nominated me, even in my absence. And I became the chairperson, Southeast Geopolitical Zone League of Student Union Presidents. I was a convention chairman at NANS. I attended NANS convention to vote and go, and I was made a convention chairman at one point. At one point, I was appointed by the NANS chairman to be his chief of staff. It was when I was the president of the League of Student Union Presidents that I met Chief Dr. Ojuto Kalu. And we came to honor him because he was one of the distinguished Southeasterners at the time, having been governor of Abia State, who was very powerful. And we who were student union leaders loved him because he was a former student union leader. So we came to honor him, and it was after my presentation at the event that he sent for me. And then that's how we started working together. And I became his special assistant on youth mobilization, while I was still from SUG, I was in law school, and I was his assistant on youth mobilization. Okay, then we actually was working for him to contest for president. We wanted, the student union leaders in the Southeast wanted a president of Igbo extraction. So we were working for him. But we were then also hoping that even if he doesn't get president, if in 2011, because Yar'Adua became president in 2007.
The conversation.
So we were hoping that if Yar'Adua was going to come back, even if he comes back as president, given his health challenges at the time, he would want to drop a South Easterner as vice and then try a Southeasterner for the remaining of the term, because we too are Nigerians. And we were also hoping that if his health condition could not permit him to contest for a second term, and he's handing over to another Northerner, that Northerner should also look at the Southeast as a place to pick a running mate from. So we promoted Chief Dr. Ojuto Kalu very well. We mobilized for him massively. Incidentally, Yar'Adua died. Goodluck Jonathan became the president then, and then had to contest again. So it was difficult for Ojuto Kalu to clinch any of the dream positions that we worked for him to get. So eventually I told him I wanted to go back to Enugu and start my legal practice at being called to bar, and then pay attention to local politics in my domain.
Let me cut you here, but why did you have to? You were trained as a lawyer, you just left it. Why would you be trained as a lawyer and by the time you finished school, you still had to be hobnobbing with politicians? Was it that the legal practice wasn't attractive ab initio?
Yeah, I was getting there before you cut me short.
Okay.
You know, I started working with Auditor Carlo when I was still in the university. I was a student union president, and I continued working with him. I went to law school. I continued working with him. I was called to bar. You know, and then I also continued working with him. So basically, it was after the death of Yaradua, and he wanted to contest for Senate in Abia. And I felt I wasn't a stakeholder in that particular contest because the presidency, either as president or vice, was a national election, which I, from Enugu, can participate. But Senate is for people from Abia North, where he comes from, where I do not come from. So I felt I had little or nothing to offer him, other than to follow him about during his campaign. I cannot vote there because I am from Enugu State, and that's where I have my voter's card. I don't know if you understand.
Very well.
So I told him I wanted to come back to Enugu to start up my legal practice. And then while practicing law, I would have time to also look into the local politics in Enugu, of which by then I was not conversant with the local politics here, because I left from school to Abia State. Do you understand it?
Yes.
So I wanted to come back so I can feel the impulse of my people. Already the desire to be part of the process had been born in me, you know, through my experiences, my growth in leadership. Now I've started seeing the possibility that one person in power can control the destiny of millions. And because I know I had good intentions, and I say I have good intentions, I was looking for a platform to be part of the process. Because they say that the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. If good men are there and they don't want to be part of the process, political process, and then they run away from it, then bad men will come and take up the process, and then they would make policies that the good men will be subjected to be part of, to accept, because you cannot do nothing, you don't have political power. So I came back, joined our local politics then. In my village, Akamawi, my ward is Akama Amang ward, and the highest political office holder at the time was one Mr. Engineer O'Brien Ofodo, who was the MD of Enugu Water Corporation. He was the major stakeholder, so I went to him and I started working with him. Basically, he made me his personal lawyer because I had a law firm. So I was managing his properties at the time, and while we were also doing the politics. So build up to 2015, I had cause to meet with Senator Ike Ekweramadu, who accepted me from the first day I came to see him. Our spirits accepted each other. You know, nobody recommended me to him. I came to him myself. I walked upstairs to him, to his gate, and I was allowed to see him, and then we had an understanding. He was then running to go back to the Senate for a fourth term, and there was a huge contest between himself and the then governor of Enugu State, Sullivan Chima. You know, why Sullivan came from my side ordinarily, I should desire to work with him. But then there was something I saw, that made me feel it was necessary for Kwamado to go back in the Senate. The legislature or legislative positions and that of the executive are not the same. In the legislature, the older you are in parliament, the better you are, the more experienced, the more projects you can attract. I know that when I came to Enugu State House of Assembly, as brilliant as I think I was, it took me some time to get acquainted with the legislative process, even as a lawyer. A lot of things I read or taught or studied theoretically. You actually need to be in the field to understand, how these things are done. And in Nigeria, we seldom do apprenticeship as it should. I was thinking probably that law students should have a chance to, while they are still in college, be attached to courts, be attached to law firm, be attached to legislative offices in order to understand some of these processes, but that is by the way. So then I thought Senator Kwamado had more to offer. First is that he was the deputy Senate president, and I felt that if His Excellency Sullivan Chime came to the Senate for the first time, there's no way he can be the deputy Senate president, and he may not be able to attract some of the things Senator Kwamado have been able to attract to Enugu State, to Enugu West senatorial zone. That's my senatorial zone in particular. Senator Kwamado, in all fairness to him, have attracted so much to the people of my zone. So I felt there were more he could do as a seasoned legislator, one that have spent time, and there were more he could become. As a deputy Senate president, there are chances that he could retain that position or even go higher. And I know there were a plethora of individuals from our zone that were gainfully employed by way of political appointments, serving under him, at the time, and this needed to continue, because I'm not sure that if Sullivan Chime came to the Senate as a first timer, he would be able to do some of those things, and that is one. Again, I felt that Kwamado was more people-oriented, as a politician. He was more of a consensus builder. In fairness to Governor Chime, he is actually a very great leader. I tell him from time to time that I'm proud that he's from Abuja, because some of the things, the innovations he did, and the developments infrastructural-wise that he brought to Enugu, cannot be shelved.
Oh, you mentioned Abuja now. Is Abuja the name of his village?
No, Abuja is a cultural block in Enugu. Abuja is made up of Udi and Eziago.
Okay.
Both local government used to be one under Udi. Okay. And there was a common name, a traditional name for us, and it is Abuja. So everybody you see who is from Eziago and who is from Udi are referred to as Abuja people. Okay. They are also Abuja people are also in Enugu North, because the Ngo clan are also part of Abuja. And that part of them are in Enugu North local government, while part of them are in yeah. Okay. You see, so that's what I'm saying. So basically, I supported Senator Kwamado, but while this was happening, I was made a senior legislative assistant in his office, and I was working with him. Close to the election, I've started loving the legislature by working with him. The things he can do, the things he can attract. So I felt, okay, maybe I could start small, as a legislator, and see if I could grow through the ranks. Basically, walking in his footsteps. So I ran for Enugu State House of Assembly.
Was it the person that supported you? Because some people feel you were pushed by someone, or how did you? Were you a member of the PDP prior to that?
Yeah, I told you I came back from Abia to join PDP in the state.
Okay.
And I told you I told you my ward, Akama Manko ward, and I told you the leader of my ward was Mr. O'Brien Ofodo, the then MD Water Corporation. And I told you he was the one I was following before I met Senator Ekweremadu. And then I also informed O'Brien I've been given an opportunity to work with Senator Ekweremadu, and he blessed me and told me to go ahead and work with him. So, and then the only thing is that when this political tussle started between Senator Ekweremadu and Governor Chima, O'Brien, who was on the side of Chima and who is from Abuja, wanted me to also come over to stand with Governor Chima. But then because it's not in my nature to be here and there, so I told him no, I'm working for this man now. So, and I think he's the best person. I had good reasons to support him to go back to the Senate. So I personally came to him to let him know I want to purchase the nomination form of the PDP and to run for House of Assembly. You know, well, he was surprised. You know, we just barely started working. I don't even think we worked for 1 year. So he asked me about my appointment in his office. So I told him I know what the law says about it. The law is that I should resign my appointment with you and then run for the election. So I would duly resign. And he was like, what if you don't win? I said, well, with God and with you. And I know my people love me, I will win. So he said, okay. He also blessed me. So next morning I went, withdrew 1.2 million from my account and went to the state party office to buy nomination form. When I came, the then woman leader. I
would like to cut this, because if you just started working and you got 1.2 million, people will be wondering how was it possible? Did you get support from people? Did Senator Ekweremadu get you the ticket?
No, not at all.
So when you just started working, how were you able to get 1.2 million?
I had a robust legal practice in Enugu. I had Chima Obieze and Associates. It's a registered law firm. And I was doing well. Before I started working with Ekweremadu, I was driving 2010 Honda Accord. I had extra Jeep. I had Mercedes C-Class.
So say you had already started.
I was living in a duplex.
You were already doing well prior to joining the politics.
Yeah, of course. I wasn't.
It wouldn't be as if you were attracted because of the perks of office from what you've seen from the distinguished senator.
No.
And your association with the former governor.
Basically, my utmost desire in politics is to serve. And like I told you, having been in the corridors of leadership, I understand how much political decisions can affect people. A lot of people don't know this. I tell young people when I attend their functions, I say, you think the political process don't concern you. That is why if they are doing Big Brother Niger, you can cast up to 100 million votes, but during the election, you can hardly come out to vote because you think it doesn't affect you. But see, hey,
but
look.
They are saying that they're not seeing the dividends of democracy. And a lot of young people
how do they
have work?
And how do they expect that they will see the dividend of democracy by staying aloof?
The conversation.
I'm sure you agree with me that my conversation with Right Honorable Barrister Chima Obieze, representing Iziagu constituency in the Enugu State House of Assembly, Nigeria, was very thoughtful and insightful. Please stay tuned next week for another edition of the program, The Conversation with Arthur Ejiofor. See you next time.